All right, hey everybody, and happy January, everybody! It is the January 13th meeting of the Georgia Game Developers Association. We are at the Creative Media Industries Institute at Georgia State University, and you are not! So you did not get pizza or donuts or any of the good stuff. Mostly you missed the networking, but you can do that online, YouTube, say hi on YouTube, tell us who you are. Go ahead and like the video now, because you know you're going to like it anyway. But in any case, for everybody who's here, we are the Georgia Game Developers Association. We represent everyone in the state working on video games, be they students, hobbyists, professionals. We got lawyers, we got accountants, we got all kinds of folks involved with the industry in the association. We also have more meetings coming up. I'm going to talk about those very quickly. February 10th, we will have a meeting in our Discord server. If you're a GDA member, you can be in the Discord. Otherwise, you can watch it on YouTube again. On the succeeding in neurodivergence, with neurodivergence in the industry, whether you have it or work with people who are neurodivergent, great opportunity. There are one or two people who consider themselves neurodivergent in game development, believe it or not. A lot of laughter from the panel on that one. All right, they have been a big part of why our industry is so successful. So learn how you can make the most of that opportunity as well. We have folks in the audience claiming the label for themselves too. They are a big part of the reason why this is such a growing industry. Also in February 21st and 22nd, we have our second Transformer AI conference. We've just announced, actually you're some of the first to hear about it. We have Tim Johnson, who's making incredible Discord games. He used to be CTO with Will Wright, has worked on some amazing things. We'll be doing his our keynote. Our Games AI conference is not just about Gen AI. We've got a lot more AI in games than just Gen AI. We will be having conversations on ethics in AI, but we'll also be talking about procedural generation and other non-Gen AI topics. But yeah, there's a lot of Gen AI involved as well. And we'll have a lot of workshops on the specific tools you can use. And I skipped an important January event. January 28th at a location still TBA, but it'll probably be over by Georgia Tech. We will be bringing special guests. We'll be having a presenter from an English game studio who is working with Adult Swim Games. We'll be joining a panel on creating a sustainable indie game dev studio. He's been doing it for years. The rest of our panelists have been doing it for a long time, so it'll be a great opportunity for anyone interested in going in dev. It will not be here. It'll probably be in Georgia Tech. January 28th, 7 p.m., same time. Yep, no problem. Good question. And in March, we will have SimFest down in Columbus, March 7th, and then we will also have Siege at the Atlanta Science Fiction and Fantasy Expo at North Lake Mall with indie games, Siege panels, and more, March 14th to 15th. So stay tuned for all that, ggda.org for all that information. I'm sure Panther Dev will be sharing it with Georgia State University students. So if you're here and not already in the Panther Dev community, make sure you join it. And with that, I'm very happy to turn it over to our panel. Game jams are a great way to learn how to make games. I actually think they're about the best introductory course you can have to game development. And with that, I will turn over our speakers to introduce themselves.
Thanks, Andrew. He talks at YouTube times 2 speed already out of the box. It's great. It's good to be with you guys and girls. My name's Todd Harris, and we're going to be, I've got the pleasure of moderating this panel, so I'll give you a little of an extended introduction, and then I'll pass it down the line. How many people are planning to be at the end of January Game Jam? Raise your hand. Awesome. Okay, great. Cool. So before I have folks introduce themselves, I'm very passionate about game development here in Georgia. My background originally, when it comes to games, was being part of starting the studio, Hi-Rez Studios. You guys heard of Hi-Rez and Smite?
Woo! Yeah!
So 2005, 4 of us started Hi-Rez, and we grew that company to about 500 people before I left, and also was fortunate to be one of the first investors and advisors to Blue Mammoth, the makers of Brawlhalla, another great game, and of course have friends all over the community. So very passionate about game development in Georgia. Right now, I'm focused on a new enterprise called Ghost Gaming, and what we are doing is building games inside the Fortnite ecosystem. So we're using the UEFN tools, and Andrew had a clip up there showing our new title, Super Pet World, and I'll talk about that at the end, but I wanted to show that because some people think you can only make combat experiences in Fortnite, or you can only make things that look and feel and play like Fortnite. And no, if you saw that, it's kind of like Pokemon in Fortnite. It's a pet collection game with turn-based combat and 100 different pets that you collect, and a very different demographic than core Fortnite, and it's seeing a lot of success. So we at Ghost are a sponsor of various game jams, the different sites that are represented today. So we're supporting the game jam here at Georgia State. We're also supporting the location SCAD Atlanta, and we're supporting Kennesaw. All three are taking part in the global game jam, and we're supporting them no matter what tool set you choose to use, but we are shining a special spotlight on those of you brave enough to use UEFN. So we will have a judge from the Ghost team at each site, and if you choose to do something in UEFN, you're definitely going to get a lot of attention from them, and we will pick one team per site to come and spend time with us. We'll treat you to lunch. We'll talk with you about the game industry. Maybe that'll be a fit to work within our program. We do currently have reps at our studio from Georgia State, from SCAD, from Kennesaw, and from Georgia Tech. So we're representing all the local talent. So find me afterwards if you want to hear more information, but we encourage you to participate in the jam no matter what tool you use. And we've got a star-studded panel here representing all the sites and students and faculty and industry, all the above. So I'll pass it for introductions, and then I'll hit everybody with questions.
Okay. Hey, I'm Chris Dodson. I'm representing SCAD Atlanta. I've been teaching there for about 17 years. We've been doing jams, I'd say 15 of those. So we're set up. If anybody does want to come over and jam with us, the only thing we ask is that you have a SCAD student on your team, which usually is why people come to SCAD, because they want an artist. So yeah.
That's great. My name is Patrick Fram. I've done about 18 years in the games industry, worked on everything from like web, casino, mobile, and AAA games. I was at Ubisoft for about 8 years doing games like South Park, Fractured Butthole, Tom Clancy's Division 2, Rocksmith Plus, and X Defiant. So yeah, got a lot of, been all over the place. I'm kind of a generalist and sort of just do every aspect of game design and system design, stuff like that.
Hi, I'm Casey Woodring. I am the site organizer for GSU's CMII Global Game Jam site, and I'm also the president of Panther Dev, which is our school's
Hi, my name is Nick Murphy. I am the coordinator for the Kennesaw State Game Jam. I am also a lecturer of game development at KSU. I'm the faculty advisor for the KSU's Student Game Development Club. I am currently the acting interim director of the KSU Game Studio until Dr. LaGrange gets back. And because I'm not busy enough, I'm actually working on my doctorate here at Georgia State.
All right, great representation. So I guess for the people participating, can I see a show of hands if this is going to be your first game jam? Then raise your hand high. Don't be embarrassed. Okay, awesome, cool. So my first question is going to be about preparation and thinking about what everyone should do before they get to the jam. So if you have your top 1 or 2 lessons, recommendations on how individuals or teams should prep before coming to the jam. This might be specific to your site or might be broadly. Let's hit them with those. Whoever wants to go first can start.
Yeah, so most of the game jams I've been to, I was an artist, and so the most important thing there is to actually, prove that you're an artist and what your art looks like. So one of the biggest things to have, if you're looking to do, anything visual, is to have something visual to show. So you can kind of have a demo reel or, that's the standard thing. But even just having, examples of art you've done, even if you've never been in a game before, but just have some, just something to show. A lot of teams might just have nothing but programmers, and they don't have an artist at all. And so there's a lot of teams that are looking to fill that slot. So just being able to prove that you have it, honestly, can get you a team instantly, honestly.
So I think the biggest thing is just being willing to go out and do something different. I've had students come up to me and say, I want to do game jam, but I don't feel like I'm ready yet. I don't have enough skills. And I've had students who are freshmen who have never done anything but peer pressure to go into the game jam, and they've done great. Some of them even ended up on teams that went to Best of Georgia. So there's definitely a lot of stuff you can do, a lot of tools you can look into. At KSU, we try and promote a lot of open source software for art, for programming, for music. But honestly, just being willing to go out and try something new, I think, is the biggest thing to prepare.
I was just gonna say, I think you should prepare yourself to make some friends. Like, I think a lot of people might go into the game jam feeling like they don't have any supports, especially if it's their first time jamming and everybody else is finding their friends who they want to work with. But it just takes one person to reach out and grab somebody else and say, hey, will you be on my team? So prepare yourself to be that person.
Yeah, I think that's all great advice. The only thing I would add is maybe make sure you've slept a reasonable amount before you start, because you might mean not sleeping as much as you want to. And just be ready to, like I said, just be ready to reach out to anybody, even if you think, oh, they've already got a team made, whatever. You'd be surprised. People will just be like, oh, sure, jump on board.
Awesome. I'll add, I think, just think about what success for the jam means for you, because you can get so much out of it. You can make new friends. It can be just about fun. It could be networking. It can be getting a portfolio piece. It can be learning a new skill. So just kind of go in thinking about what you would ideally like to get out of it. All right. You mentioned sleep, so I'm just going to dive in. There are different attitudes when it comes to sleep, and I will express my own opinion. But I guess for those of you that have participated in the balance between pushing through or self-care, what have you seen from participants, or what's been your own experience and guidelines? Anyone who wants to take this? Come on, be brave.
All right, I have a lot on this.
Okay.
I will start with the fact that we tell our students we're not asking you to stay awake for 48 hours. That's not what it means, right? Plan with the team. Think about the rotation of what your pipeline is going to look like anyway, and think about things like, okay, well, when is the programmer really going to be needed most? When are the artists going to be needed most? And start working out some sort of rotational shifts so that you can get some sleep. That being said, age is a factor. So I'm not staying at 48 hours anymore. But I'll tell you what, in my 20s, you couldn't have kept me, you couldn't have got me into the bed, right? So we won't tell you to sleep or not, but there is a counter to that, which is as much as you think you might be burning it out and getting something done, you will start seeing the symptoms of that fatigue. You'll get tired, you'll make mistakes, the pressure starts happening. It's not a good idea just to try to do that, right? So you want to plan for when you're going to sleep with your team. That's going to be my main thing.
Yeah, I want to reiterate that, because I've had an experience where a coworker of mine who was not on my team for Game Jam, luckily, he would burn himself out. He would just not go to sleep and work as long as he could, and then he would crash hard, and the whole second half of the project would be sort of a nightmare to try to get anything out of this guy, because he would just fry himself. And so, yeah, definitely pace yourself, and don't try to you'll put your team in jeopardy if you kind of trash yourself and don't actually get to sleep.
I think also just more than sleep, there's more factors to taking care of yourself as well. You need to remember to eat things. Please take a shower. We don't want you stinking up the entire site. One year we brought deodorant sticks for people. Please bring your own as well.
So we're a hybrid site, so we have some students who will spend part of the time on campus, part at home, and we found that's been very helpful for people who need to balance sleep and getting stuff done. They don't have to rush back and forth, so that's been very helpful. I will say I've been guilty of this as a site advisor. Sometimes we've been understaffed, and I think my record is 30 hours awake managing the event, and I started seeing stuff, so I would encourage you guys not to follow my example. I would also say what we've noticed is students tend to try and break things down in sections. So like on Fridays, they'll focus more on the planning, the brainstorming. They'll do the real hard coding on Saturday, and then on Sundays, clean up. Do we take questions from the audience at this point?
Let's just hold them to the end, but then we'll definitely have some time. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, that was a good transition into kind of planning. So, but before we leave it, I just, particularly for you site hosts, I just want to make sure, from a site host perspective, is there any additional takeaway, like something that you wish participants were doing or bringing with them before they show up on your site? Do you recommend a little bit of a food bag? Is there food nearby? Like, just if there's anything you want them to know before they show up at your site that we didn't hit there.
It gets cold at night. It gets really cold. Bring a jacket. Bring something to keep yourself warm if you are going to stay late.
So at KSU, we do actually bring in food, which I'm actually working on the budget for that right now. But definitely bring in your own snacks. I know different people have different dietary standards, vegan, vegetarian, etc. So, while definitely scope things out and understand what food could be available. Also, I would say for people who are staying, bring something that you can sleep with if you want to stay on campus. We have people bring in inflatable mattresses. One group brings in a tent every year, which I don't fully understand, but it's very entertaining. So definitely.
More on that. Do they do that? Have they done that like for like a night or something?
Yes, they actually sleep in it.
Please repeat the question.
So the question from the audience was, the group that slept in the tent, did they actually sleep there? And yes, they actually slept in the tent. But as someone on site as well, when I stay overnights, the first time I did it, I roughed it out, and then I learned, and I brought things I could sleep on in my office. So definitely, if you plan on staying on campus or at the site, definitely encourage you to bring something to sleep on, or at least something to relax on while you start, wrist cramping and all that.
All right, Nick got us into time planning across the 48 hours. So I don't know that there's one right answer, but I would love to hear everyone's perspective on how they think about dividing that time from getting a theme to having something ready for the judges. Anyone who wants to take this and give some guidance on time management?
Sure. So one of the things that comes to mind is to make sure you sort of do things in the right order so that you unblock as many people as possible. The last thing you want is for your level designer or whatever is just sitting around for the first day because the systems aren't ready for them to start moving and stuff like that. So that was definitely something that I think kind of goes into time management, which is to make sure you're building the systems that just allow everyone to start contributing as early as possible, so no one's wasting time. There was a project I was on where my whole team was artists, and so even though I was an artist too, the first thing I had to do was build a system that would let all these artists sort of start working on their animations and sort of start getting them hooked up and things like that. So even though it's not what I wanted to do right out of the gates, that's what I did to make sure that everyone else is on board.
I'm blanking for a second. So what my students always tell me the first time they do a game jam, I ask them about it, is they'll tell me, I didn't realize how short 48 hours was. So they will come in, your first game jam, you have all these amazing ideas that you think you can do over a weekend. I think one of the very important things, as was mentioned, is you learn what you can and cannot accomplish in 48 hours. But the really great thing is if you keep coming to game jams, you get better at it. The first time you do it, you learn how short 48 hours are. Next time you come in, you have better scope. And then you can start building. So I have watched students over the years go from being overwhelmed the first game jam to making some really, really impressive stuff. So definitely I wouldn't stress about it, but it's a really good opportunity to learn exactly what you can and cannot do in 48 hours. So just first game jam, fantastic learning opportunity.
I wanted to say one of the biggest organizational time management skills that I've learned from game jams is to make a build of your game early, because in that last hour, the website will be crashing because everybody is trying to turn stuff in. So make sure you have a version of your game early. Make sure you have your base game page already up on the website and ready, so you just have to put in your game. Do all of that as much ahead of time as you possibly can, and then you can just submit an updated version of your game later.
I'd say that
Friday night is really critical. I've seen teams form with 15, 20 people. We're going to crush it. We're going to have the best game ever. And 2 o'clock in the morning, there's still 20 people arguing about what they're going to make. I would say set yourself some kind of a deadline of like, at this point, design freeze, you've got to move forward with getting something together. So, and I used to tell students about 12 hours in, I'd go, all right, it's midterms. And everybody's like, whoa, that kind of locks in. Like, this would have been the equivalent of half a quarter, right? So the faster you can get a design nailed down, agree to something. If you design too long, it's probably going to get out of scope anyway. So trying to keep something that you can do rapidly and start assigning tasks to the team. I also really recommend for people who are like, it's my first jam, I don't really have any necessarily game development skills. If you have any sense at all of time management and project management, it's great to have a person that just keeps everybody else on track and says, okay, look, we've got to move on. We've got to move on. This is the sort of project map that we've made for the weekend. Set yourself milestones. And when we, on Friday night, when we have our kickoff, we usually kind of go over like, try to be here at this point, try to be here at this point, try to be here at this point, so that it doesn't all pile up.
That was great. I'm going to plus 100 on the don't overscope. I would say, honestly, try to build the easiest version of a core mechanic and get it playable as fast as possible, and then, as was said, add polish as you can. But you also hit team size that I want to dig into. So first of all, we hit it from a few angles, but just in terms of overscoping, because I think it is maybe the primary failure point in game jams and in game development, whether it's 48 hours or 2 years or 4 years. Anyone have any other like actionable tips on how you come in with ambition and you don't overscope, just from your experience? Any other tips or guidance there?
Sure. Like, he kind of mentioned it before, but like getting your core concept out and maybe kind of sticking to just one sort of core concept. Don't try to make, like a biggest game or a new mechanic that like, or a whole new system that the world's never seen before. A lot of times, it's better to sort of like stick with things that are possible and sort of, innovate from there. And, don't try to bite off, a whole new type of game that no one's ever seen before, because you might just end up with something that actually works. Whereas if you were just make a fancy version of Pong that fits the theme, you can bang that out in half a day. So, it helps to sort of, start from a sort of unknown game design, or something that is achievable.
Pull out a document and write stuff down. If you have this huge idea, if you're actually putting it on paper or a whiteboard or something like that, you can see, oh, this is going to take way too long. Where can we cut off on this? And turn those ideas into an actual plan of what steps need to be taken to get that idea done.
Something I found that helps with scope is this is a little programming centric, but anyone can use it. Version control, repositories. What I found is when students have that understanding of, we all have access and we can all work on the project together, it really helps everyone get a sense of, oh, this is how the artists are doing, this is how the musicians are doing, this is how the programmers are doing. I thought that programming this would be super simple, but it turns out it's actually a very involved process, and maybe we need to scope back. So having everyone be able to see and directly contribute to the project using a repository or something like that helps people understand this is feasible, this is not. Because I'm primarily a programmer, and so while I have familiarity with art, I don't know how long it takes really to make a Street Fighter level sprite sheet. I might have assumptions because I think all the artists are amazing, and vice versa. They may not have as much familiarity with programming. So having that sort of central repository, everyone can see the progress that's being made in each of those sections, can really help you understand, oh, this is reasonable with the skill sets we have.
All right, another good transition. You guys hit it a little bit, but we talked about scope, we talked about preparation. Now you have a team, and so number one, anything you want to give guidance around team size, and number two, you talked a little bit about tips like writing things down or assigning roles, but just share any best practices of going from the scope to having humans do the right things along the way. And maybe team size as well, if you have strong opinions on that.
So you kind of touched on it with assigning roles, but also I think making sure your team has a sorted out communication channel beforehand, because even with those roles assigned, if you have like a bigger team and there's multiple artists, you don't want people's work overlapping, because that's wasting your 48 hours. So make sure people are communicating every time they get something done, they're starting something new, so people don't start the same task over again.
In terms of team size, at least from what I've seen, it kind of correlates with experience. So I've seen groups start out with 3 or 4. The first time it was very successful. One time had a group of 20, which none of us thought was going to be successful, but all of those people had prior game development experience. Some of them were alumni, and they were a machine. They had everyone rolls out in advance. They had it all working. They had assembly line. When there was food, they'd have one person come in, get the food, come back out. Methodical. So they knew how to work together as a team. So you definitely learn teamwork if you've never done it before on a game jam. But I would recommend, especially if you're starting out and you don't have a lot of experience, especially if you do a random grouping like the day of the event, try and keep your team small. That will limit what you're able to do in terms of how many people can do this and this, but it also helps keep your scope down. And so definitely a balance there in terms of experience. The more you know how to do, the better you can finish.
I would also say to like keep in mind like the actual composition of your team and sort of make the project sort of play to your team's strength. If you have a bunch of programmers, then you can do something that's more programmer heavy. If you've only got one programmer and you got a bunch of artists, then maybe you do something that's more art heavy. But you definitely want to sort of make sure that the whole idea that you're going forward with actually matches the team that you have, and you have everyone can kind of do something without overlapping. If you're talking about it, planning it out, and you're realizing that you have a guy that we're not really using for anything, or 2 people who want to do the same thing, then maybe that's not the right sort of project. Maybe you can kind of change a little bit to make it make sense for your actual team's composition.
Yeah, I'd say the 20-person team, I've seen it occasionally do well, and I've seen it really fail. And what I have seen a lot is that 20-person team splits. So if you all want to be on a team together, 20 of you, but maybe there's a divide in direction, and it's not cohesive, and you find yourself getting into too many disputes over, like, we're not sure, we want to go this way, we want to go this way. Make 2 teams. Go ahead and split right then and be very friendly about it. Hey, let's make both games. You guys do that, because the point is to get started. I would also say do your best. One other thing about the large teams is the more people, more people have to be managed to coordinate the communication like you guys are talking about. So, and to that is when everyone's going off and disappearing and going into their cave and working, we have a real tendency to get really absorbed into our work as game developers and kind of get lost in it. So if you can set some certain meeting times, for those who ever use like the Scrum and Agile process, kind of mimic that a little bit through the weekend and be like, okay, listen, we're having a check-in at 10 o'clock. Because that's when you can cut a lot of things where you're like, okay, so-and-so is like lost over here and nobody they want to deliver, they're trying to figure something out. I always ask programmers, I've learned this over the year, I have a great question. I used to see people say, I want to make this kind of game idea, do you know how to do that? And they're like, oh yeah, then they learned the theory of how to do that. And I go, my question is, have you ever done that before? Because that's okay if we haven't, but I want to know if this is an exploration where that dev is going to spend 5 hours figuring out how to do something, because that's why they came to the jam, or they're like, I built 6 first-person shooters, that's a no-brainer, let's get on, we can start with Eric, right? So that's a good question. So just knowing, and that speaks to the roles, so it's kind of a lot mixed together. But.
That was great. Great feedback all around. How about, so how do you guys think about play testing? Like when and how, ideally, would that be injected into this process? Anyone want to take that?
One of my friends has a story about a time that they were doing a game jam, and in the very last hour, they were finally making a build of their game. And the start button was off the screen. And they did not know this until the very end, and then they could not submit their game. So please make something early just to test it. It doesn't even have to be like the first day. Like if you can make something the first day, I say go for it. It's good to test as many times as possible, but I know time doesn't always permit that. But at the very least, maybe like 5 hours before the due date.
Yeah, so in our online, we run a Discord throughout the event, so in-person online so you can connect. And we have set break times where we encourage people to show their current builds, demo things, to try and encourage that playtesting, because it's kind of our nature, right? We want it perfect, and we don't want anyone to see it before it's perfect, which is definitely not the game jam, I don't think. But we definitely want to encourage people to test early, test often. Something else we also do is we have a faculty walk around, and they'll walk around and say, hey, can you show me what you're working on this? Both because we do actually want to see it, but also as a way to encourage you again, stop what you're doing for a second, show us what's going on. As many times I've had students, I have broken students' games that got very mad at me, but then it's been helpful for them long term. He's like, oh, we got to fix this. So fight your instincts. Don't wait until it's perfect, until the very last day. Try and do even small tests, even just builds, and make sure they work when you can.
Yeah, to kind of reiterate that, I've been on projects where you have like a main programmer who's just face down doing stuff, and he doesn't have time to make a build for everyone, and no one gets to play the game until he's finally ready with it. So you don't want to paint yourself into that corner, and you might want to figure out what your plan is ahead of time. Make sure that we're going to make builds on these milestones, whatever, and we're going to let everyone play it. So you don't just have one guy who's sort of holding the build hostage, and no one gets to play test it. And then on the last day you find out, oh, it's not actually fun. You want to actually make sure that. And so just to make sure that doesn't happen, you might want to sort of make those plans ahead of time and say that these are the times we're going to play test it, and these are the times we're going to make builds. And so it doesn't get monopolized, and everyone actually gets to put in their input onto whether or not it's going in the right direction or not.
Yeah, that's a great point as far as the getting stuck anywhere in development, and because in Magical Christmas Land, you make a design very quickly, you rapidly prototype. There's lots of playtesting time, and actual practice in game jams, stuff like that happens, right? The design build isn't ready yet. It's not ready in a playtestable state. Somebody's still waiting on something else. You get ready to playtest, it's too late. Everybody's exhausted, or they're all wrapped up in trying to finish what they're doing. There isn't anybody to actually playtest anything. That happens all too much. Best advice on that, I kind of feel like if I was going to say I'm the designer, and one of the things that we always teach in this world of development and digital games, really especially, which is of course what we're all here for primarily. You can't just be a designer and then sit around and tell everybody what to do and then you go home. You've got to have skills all along the way. But as a designer, maybe you can be doing that, but as the process gets later into the cycle, there is less and less for you to do. Maybe you could have allocated some time. What I like to see a designer do is be at least that playtester. So they're going back in with a dev, working back and forth and saying, let me test it. They're going, all right, play test. I can't find the start button. All right, immediately go back and have somebody ready to fix those things right away. Your best shot probably at playtesting, unless there just happen to be some random people around at the jam doing nothing, and that might work, is really, as far as consistent, regular cycling and iteration, is probably the person who had the design kind of idea in the beginning. Maybe they can do a little bit more of the testing and really kind of be that person that goes back and pushes and says, we've got to fix this, we've got to fix that. That helps.
Two things I'll add. One, I think one of the great things about doing a game jam is being comfortable with this working rough to polished and putting your unfinished, ugly baby out for the world to judge early and often. Every studio in Georgia works that way. They all use box art cubes and try to test the gameplay, and so just training yourself to be comfortable with that, whether you're doing your own indie project in the future or trying to work for someone else, it is kind of the way most people are working. The only counter I would say is if you are following all this great advice and you're playtesting your own game, you maybe have to watch not making it too hard for the judges, because you're going to get really good at it and someone else is going to be seeing it for the first time. So, try to find some fresh eyes to tweak difficulty levels, because that's a common error. Speaking of common errors, all sorts of stuff is going to go wrong. It's going to be high stress. What are your tips on communication style, teamwork, anything you would advise people towards keeping level heads when things go wrong, or something's not delivered? Any thoughts on that, or real world experiences to share with anonymized names? Anybody?
So I've had groups that came in wanting to use a particular game engine, and then either they couldn't get to work, or any Unity developers, they all use different versions of Unity. They had them all installed, and then, well, you know what happens there. First off, try not to panic, right? I mentioned earlier having a common code repository, a common art repository. Those are very helpful, because if everyone has access, if the programmer's making regular commits, then you have to worry about them being stuck in there, because everyone can access the build. But also, when you make mistakes, and you will make mistakes, and someone will delete a very important file, you'll have that backup. So worst case scenario, you say, hey, revert back to the prior version, and you're good to go. I would definitely say backups in whatever form or fashion. I think code repositories are great, but even just if you have a spare hard drive and you're just copying over, this is build for hour 2, hour 6, or something like that, that can help reduce the fear of errors, because you will still have a working version. It may not have the latest and greatest features you've implemented yet, but at least you have something where you can fall back on and say, all right, we have something we can start building from here. So that's my point.
Sometimes there will be people on your team that will not do what's assigned to them. You have to learn to recognize when that happens and assign tasks differently, or assign that person very low priority tasks, so they still feel included while your game's actually getting done.
I was just going to say, if you're on a game jam team and you notice you're getting assigned low priority tasks, that's something you can take with you. I would also say, as far as the GitHub, I have seen this be an amazing benefit, and I've seen it absolutely stall the project out. So I guess make sure that you have somebody that has a real plan on how this works and how it's going to work with whatever the computer setup is at the school. Like, we have all kinds of IT lockdown stuff, so it's not nearly as easy as I wish it was. And so at some point you may have to go, we got to go like old school version control here and start naming files and things like that, and hard drives, and moving them around. And so just make sure that I was working on a project. Well, I'm actually working on a project now. If you're not out there listening, and the programmer's like, hey, we can use GitHub, and we can actually, it does project management. We can keep stuff in there too. And I was like, for the 3 people who know what GitHub is and how it works, that's great, but everybody else is going to hate that, right? So where GitHub gets, in anything like that, it gets difficult, any kind of repository, is when the other people just have no idea, and the artists are breaking everything, and it's just a nightmare. So figure that out so that you know how to make it work, and that's probably a strong tech lead coming in saying, I'm going to make sure everybody's comfortable with this, it's all set up properly, not just assuming that everybody knows how to do that, because nobody's going to want to say, I don't know what this means, what's happening. So.
Yeah, and if you don't have a tech lead or you can't figure out GitHub, then kind of like you said, just save backups. Every time you make a build, don't just blast over it with the next build, just save that and increment the version of whatever. So that way, if something crashes, you have a whole bunch of other ones that you can potentially at least turn in. And so if you do paint yourself into a corner and you don't have any repositories or things like that, you at least have a sort of low fidelity version of that, just so you're not at the last hour destroying your build.
One other thing on that is that I'll just extend that, because I don't want to pick on GitHub or anything, but it's really at the point you realize something isn't working and it's stalling, and it's back to that whatever meme you kill your pets or whatever. Know when to go. It's time to abandon this. It's not working. It's slowing everything down. We're going to have to get an alternate solution. whatever that might be.
Great. All right, I've got 2 more questions, and then we'll open it up to the audience. So get your questions ready. So we talked about a lot. Let's say there's 2 hours left before the end of the game jam. What should teams be doing with 2 hours left? Any best practices, tips, or things to avoid? What should they not be doing with 2 hours left?
Trying to add more stuff to your game. Right? 2 hours left. That is the point where you are wrapping up, where you are battling the Global Game Jam website to try and upload your build, to clean things up, to polish, do final checks. If your site does trailers, that's the point where you're praying that you can finally master this trailer, get it all put together. But yeah, that definitely at the 2 hour point, anything you try and add will lead more than likely to things breaking and having nothing. So at that point, whatever you have done, just try and clean up to wrap up. And I will say that you can keep working on your game even after the game jam is over. So there's no rush to be like, oh, we can never work on it again. One of my first game jams I did 10 years later, I was getting pings that someone had gone into our project and was adding updates to it. So yeah, that's not the part where you're trying to, cram stuff in. That's the part where you're saying, all right, let's get this cleaned up. Let's get this ready to submit. Let's get everyone's opinion or recommendation.
I've been on projects where, or game jams where I never see the people again afterwards, and I have nothing to show for it at the end of the day. Because I didn't walk away from the thing with any videos of it or my own copy of the build. So in those last 2 hours, that might be your time to sort of make sure that you get what you came for out of this. If you wanted to showcase your animation, then start taking some videos of the game and your animation. Or coordinating with how you're going to get these files and this project afterwards, so you don't just leave the thing with nothing to show for it.
Oftentimes when I've had game jams and projects like this, artists have told me that they feel like they have nothing to do at that point and it's all on the programmers. But I feel like at that point, if you don't have something to do, you can find something to do, especially in terms of organization, uploading stuff, writing descriptions. So I guess look for the points that are falling through on the project currently that you need to finish to get it uploaded.
I heard that word several times. I'm just going to say upload. You better be uploading 2 hours ahead of time. And then somebody else could be maybe finishing a video or something like that, but that's also got to be uploaded. I've had people go to YouTube and just have to have a link to it because that wasn't able to be uploaded. So at least you have that alternate solution for your video, but you better be getting all the promo and forward-facing stuff while this thing is uploading. I think probably is the best advice I can.
All right, you guys kind of leaned into my final question, which was post-jam, but any other things you want to hit around how to just maximize the experience, things to do, on your way out and after the jam is done, that's good for personal development or opportunities to continue the project, anything you want to hit about post-jam best practices?
I mean, I kind of what I said before. Make sure that you get a portfolio piece out of this. That because you don't know what's going to happen to your project after you leave, and it might be only online for a little while. You might never get the files back. So just make sure that you're actually, right while it's still fresh, while it still exists. Get your portfolio stuff that you need out of it, and so you have something to show for it, and you have something that's saved for posterity that you can put on your reel or you put on your website. And proves that you did this thing and made this thing, so that if everything disappears because you're not the programmer and the thing goes offline, that you've still got something you can with it.
Take some time to reflect on what you learned, what you did good, what things you want to improve on. I've had some come out to me and say, hey, next game jam, I want to work on this now. I learned this and now I want to work in this area. I want to work on the animation. I want to work on this genre of game or this game engine. So really take the opportunity once you've had some time to sleep and recover. Think about the experience, what you learned from it, what you can also apply in future games you make, right? Hopefully you met some new people, or you've been challenged to work on some new style of game, or use some new engine, or use some new art program, or something like that, and see how you can take that further. Don't just sort of like, I used Affinity once, I'll never touch it again, right?
recognize who you liked working with and keep working with them. One of my friends and now officers for the club I met in a game jam, and we ended up rooming together the next year. So you can find really cool people through this jam experience, and make sure that you are recognizing those friendships that you might be making and continue them.
Also, take a minute to high-five your team, because remember, no matter how tired or maybe defeated you feel, you finished something in 48 hours, and that's really, so that's awesome. Enjoy that accomplishment, and we always do a big kind of show at the end where we just walk through and watch everybody's videos. So maybe take some time and just, what did everybody else make? Take a look at that, and then make sure that you are not too exhausted to throw.
That's great. I will add, look for other jams. I will say that Ghost, after this global game jam, we will 100% be supporting another jam in February, details to be determined. That jam will have some prizing associated with it. Global Game Jam is all about non-prizing and participation, but we are going to support that with prizing. We'll probably do one in March as well. So we want to hit a few of them to really kind of give people a lot of opportunity. So if you have a team that you love, have a team that you like some of, it's a chance to kind of build your Avengers squad for future jams or future projects. Okay, let's open it up. I know there was some questions here, and/or if there's questions online, we'll start with this one.
Start with an easy one for each of you. Personally, what is your absolute first pick for a snack and drink?
Oh wow, personal snack. All right, I'm going to start with making it at the end. The question was personal favorite snack and drink to bring to a game jam. Is that accurate?
I'll make it easy. Protein bars and water.
I'm a camper, so I do the same thing I take camping, like beef jerky and something that's like something that's easy to store and will give you a lot of energy for not a lot of hassle.
Okay, food they don't have to. Doesn't it have a lot of sodium and salt?
Water's more.
Yeah.
Throw water.
So, pizza and water, I need something greasy to keep me alive.
I'm a gambler. I like to just take my risk on. I show up and I see what's there. So.
I like fizzy water. I don't do game jams anymore, and I would bring gummy bears because I'm a gummy bear. Okay.
We have one from YouTube. I got to scroll back up to it. Sorry about that. Should have stayed right on it. From Jukebox on YouTube. What decision-making framework do you recommend when a team is split on a core design or technical choice under a tight deadline?
All right. Decision-making framework.
Other than punching them.
I mean, if you don't have a project manager or someone that can sort of say we have to make a decision now and sort of helps those decisions made, then good old democracy, really. Just take a vote on it and see what the team wants to do. You can't be someone who wants to control every decision. It's what the team wants to do, and so sometimes you just have to put it to a vote and just go with whatever the answer is.
I think also just assessing where you are in the game development at that point and what each of those features would cost in terms of time. We may both like features, but we already have something built towards one, and this one will require all new development. And so just in terms of time, that might be enough to help you decide. One flip.
You can bring in an outsider. At a lot of jam sites, we have mentors around, and they have experience with game jams and can tell you what ideas may be feasible or not. So reach out to your resources that are on site.
Yeah, that's good. The objective viewpoint from outside. Also, it's a little bit rolling the clock back, but I feel like if early on you define kind of what your core game loop is and essential values and make that very clean, you have the ability to later go back and say, that's a fantastic idea, doesn't quite fit what the core loop of the game is, and maybe we could make another game on that, and just kind of have your team assess. It's not personal, all the ideas are good, but does it fit what the core of this game is about?
Yeah, I agree. I think the teams that are able to identify one cool idea and execute it well, do well. And that may mean many other nice-to-haves that you probably won't get to because you're triaging, but that helps unify the vision. So. Great question.
And the other is go with whatever's quickest and easiest is the default.
It's a good guideline, yes.
What qualities do you look for in team members?
We kind of mentioned it earlier, but like making sure that someone has done the thing before or is confident that they can do it again. You definitely want it is a learning experience for everything, but you don't want them to be learning from ground zero and trying to do something that's outside of their comfort level. So you want to try to find team members that sort of have already done something similar or are confident that they can do it this time, and putting a lot of faith in somebody who may not be able to perform.
It just depends on what you want to get out of jam. So if you're going in for the first time and you're not worried about making the most amazing game ever, you just want to try this, having other people on your team who are like-minded can be very helpful. It's not great if you're the one person who wants to try something new and everyone else is a grizzled veteran who's like, we got this time down to the minute. That can lead to some strife. So just finding people that are looking for the same thing in jam that you are, and your willingness to take risk versus advance, your willingness to focus on a particular genre. For example, if everyone on the team wants to make a real-time strategy game and you want to make a platformer, well, there's going to be some tension there, perhaps. So just trying to find out what everyone's interested in, what they want to get out of jam, I think can be very helpful in making sure the experience is good no matter what comes out of it.
I'm always looking for team members that communicate and will tell you what they are able to do, what they are not able to do, the time that they're able to do it in. If you're talking all these ideas and someone is just nodding along, that is not always going to be the most helpful. So look for people who are willing to work with you and communicate with you.
More questions from the room? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
I'll just add, I think it's tricky because all those are great things, and it's amazingly difficult to assess that Friday night, first hour or two in a jam. So I was thinking about it. I think it kind of depends if you're new, then try to find some people that you know are going to be pretty confident and just come in with much more of a I want to learn attitude. If you're more experienced, I want to take everybody on the team, and then you want to get a lot of people involved. So I'd say within that larger team, make sure there are a few people that you know are going to be confident at what they want to do, like whether they brought their portfolio in or they've made several games. You got a few people like that, and then the rest of the team, just make sure there are people that are willing to help and learn, and then allocate accordingly to everybody's skill set.
Yes, go ahead. So in between each game jam you do, what should you spend your time focusing on the most? Should you increase the skills already there, or if you're trying to get more skills, should you focus on that as well?
Wow. Okay, so the question for the stream was, in between these game jams, how should you spend your time? Is it more about deepening skills or broadening skills, basically getting new skills? Yeah, pass that down, Ryan.
Your goal in life isn't to just do game jams, so it's not necessarily like you should spend your whole time preparing for the next game jam. You should kind of hopefully use the game jam to find out what you actually like to do in game design. If you had a good time doing the level design and that was the only part you liked, then just become a better level designer. So the next time you're in a team, you'll be the level designer and you'll be able to bang out another great example of doing that. But I wouldn't say necessarily prepare for the next game jam, but just kind of hone the skills that you actually want to do in your game design career.
Okay. We'll figure it out eventually.
We've got a system here.
So what you don't want to do is do something in game jam and then never do it again, because then you'll forget it. So if you've done something in game jam, if you tried something and you liked it, then just keep doing it. As was already mentioned, because trying to collect all the skills, jack of all trades, master of none. So if you want to get good at something, if you learn something in game jam, keep doing that thing, getting better at it. Don't focus so much on, I will be ready for the next game jam. I will be the level master.
I'm going to say network. Go to events, talk to other people. You might meet people who you want to participate with on the next game jam. or you might come away with some really cool ideas for your next game. But game jams aren't the only event where you can be learning new things and meeting new people, so go to other events.
Like the GDC?
Yeah, I think that all knows it.
I have a question for Patrick, unless you have another answer, Todd. What, for Patrick?
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say, I mean, I think there's a few things in your question. In terms of just general skill building, it's a little challenging, like in terms of just like getting hired after a game jam, right? But at the highest level, the smaller company you might work with, the more of a generalist you will be, and the larger company, the more of a specialist you will be. You'll be deeper and do fewer things. And like here in Georgia and across the U.S., there's a bunch of small companies and big companies. So I think, as well as was said, you can think of a game jam as a chance to low stakes sample different things, just like kind of an internship would be, but it's only 48-hour commitment, and learn a little bit for yourself. Do you want to go deeper? Do you want to go broader? What fits your strengths? Andrew, you had a follow-up.
Okay, question for Patrick. What skills do you think you learned from game jams that most helped you in your game dev career?
Oh man, I mean, I did a different role in every game jam I went to, because I am a generalist, so like that's what I like to do. So I've done ones where I did AI, I've done ones where I did level design, I did ones a lot where I did just animation. So like a lot of times that was my first time, doing it, and so I think what I learned the most is like whether or not I like to do something, when it's actually in a team. It's one thing to do it, alone at home for your own project where no one's looking at it, but when you're in a team, you actually have to sort of work with other people, work with other people's ideas, execute on what other people are giving you. And so it's a good way to just sort of, learn if that's, honestly, yeah, like Todd said, like it's a good time to sample those different roles if you don't really know what you want to do. And I think that's sort of like the best learning you can get from it is so you'll know at the end of the day, okay, I don't want to do that in my game design career, or maybe you do.
Cool. Yes, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I wrote down actually, what other opportunities should Georgia college students consider doing post-jam?
Anyone want to take that?
You should go to all the Georgia Game Developers Association meetings.
Woohoo! Got the money.
Post about it on your like LinkedIn or whatever your platform. If you have a blog or if you're on a website, like just get your own posts out of it, so you're actually sort of generating some media for yourself, to sort of promote yourself and get a web presence and get some evidence that you've done this kind of thing. It's a good time to do that after the jam, while the thing is still live, while you can still reference it, while you can still get videos from it, and get other people to look at it. And you never know, you might get job opportunities sort of knock on your door just from that.
So I've had a lot of students who, especially once you want to continue developing their game afterwards, they will sometimes keep building on the game jam build, or they'll start over the lessons they've learned. I've seen them post on itch or Steam as a way to really start promoting their game, especially students who want to make their own studio. So again, it just really depends on what your interests are. But as was mentioned, you'll learn a lot from the jams. Hopefully, when you see that you like something, you keep doing that thing even after the 48 hours are over, perhaps.
I don't have much to add. Anything that you can do to go above and beyond what you're getting in your college experience in the current environment, you just need to look for ways to differentiate. And a jam shows that. It shows initiative. It shows you ship something. So, like folks said, like shine a light on it. Everyone should have a LinkedIn profile. I'm prolific on LinkedIn. People that follow me, I post literally almost every day because it's truly an amazing platform for getting opportunities. So you should not be sleeping on LinkedIn if you want a job, because it's free promotion other than your time to put some content out there. So.
All right.
Other questions, or are we going to wrap? I think we're right at time, but there's one.
For like brand new developers, low skill in a bunch of different areas, what does that first hour or two of a game jam actually look like? If I don't know anybody and have little to offer to the table.
Okay, cool. So one, maybe people can talk about just like theme reveal, and then also maybe this is someone coming in as a solo, that is maybe trying to find teammates there. So
I would say, so that we do that kickoff, usually everybody does it. They revealed the theme at a time now, so whether people have seen it or not, we still do the kind of kickoff. We try to make that as quick as possible, and then teams start forming. And if you're new, a lot of times it seems like everybody's already made a team, and you've already got it figured out.
You can explain theme a little bit, maybe just in case.
Yeah, if you're new to the theme, there's always like some kind of an actual, what is the premise of the theme of the game? So they might,
Bubbles.
Bubbles, yeah, like last year. And that's just a constraint, a design constraint to get you headed in the right direction, right? So the first part of that design team getting together, the team getting together at all, is usually like, hey, what can we come up with around the theme, and what do we want to do? But if you're new, I just would say I'd recommend, just reach out and try to get on a team. But if you're having trouble with that, and a lot of those people they feel comfortable with not, they don't know anybody, whatever. I always say go to the organizer and say, I'm just looking for a team, because I will walk around. I'll say, what's your skill set? And I'll just walk around and say, you guys need an illustrator, you need somebody to help out, and we'll get you on a team really fast that way, because that first part is where everybody's designing and planning, and that needs to happen pretty much quickly within those first 2 hours.
I'd also say just don't worry about being honest that you're new to it and you might not have the skills yet. Some teams might be real hardcore where they don't want to deal with you if you don't already have the chops, but most teams are probably a lot more chill, and are as long as you're upfront with it, they'll just be like, don't worry about it. Then jump on with us. We'll show you the ropes. We'll teach you what to do. You definitely kind of want to be on a team that's going to be okay with you being new, and not expecting, and dumping a whole bunch of, responsibilities on you might not be able to do. It's a lot of people here. It's going to be their first time, and a lot of people are going to be new at it. And that's the whole point is to learn. So don't really be worried about being upfront with that, and then hopefully you'll be on a team that's sort of immediate.
Kind of the same thing you said. You're not going to be the only one who's completely new to this. I know when I did my first game jam, the way I got my team is everybody was sitting around after the theme reveal I don't know anybody here. And then since we all saw each other awkwardly looking around, we were like, okay, we'll just make a team because nobody else knows anyone here. And then I've continued to know them for years.
So we know that a lot of game developer students are shy. You're all very confident, but there's some chance. So at least at KSU, we try and make sure that we pair everyone before they head out. So we do the kickoff meeting, we do an icebreaker where we'll ask the crowd, here's the theme, come up with some game ideas. Then we'll ask, who's an artist, who's a programmer, who's a writer, etc. After the teams leave, then we say, all right, we want to make sure, again, raise your hands for the skills, and we try and pair who's ever hanging out afterwards. So definitely reach out to the organizers. All of us want this to be successful for whatever site you're at. We want you to have a good time. If you want to solo develop, which we have some people do, totally fine. We're not going to stop you, but I think game jams really work well when people are working together. So don't be afraid. Ask people to volunteer for the same thing. And then, as was already said, you're probably not going to jump into programming in that first 30 minutes, right? You go into the room, you're going to be like, all right, coding now. That's going to be the discussion. And anyone can do that, right? No matter what your skill set is, anyone can come up with ideas. So, just kind of enjoy that part of the process where anything's possible before you winnow it all down to what you're actually going to do over the next 7 hours.
We have one specific last question. Todd, tell us about the best UEFN game competition.
Oh, wow. All right. What a plug. Thank you, Andrew, or YouTuber. Yeah, well, like I said, first of all, we're just happy to help support these jams, and we will support more of them. The reason we are doing it is because some of the vibes and feel of a game jam apply to the kind of studio that we're building. It's a pretty unique program. It feels kind of like a game jam. Like we have a place up at our studio. Who's been to our facility? Either Creator Summit or Esports Summit. All right. You guys need to check it out. In May, by the way, we'll have a lot of events. DreamHack is coming to Atlanta in May, and we have multiple sessions there, and it's just a short
MARTA ride or car ride or Uber up the road in Buckhead. But we have a facility there, and it's filled with people that are passionate about games, and they work together kind of like a game jam in that it's organic. Like I might be working with Nick on a project, and then maybe I work with Chris and Patrick on a project, and the projects are generally pretty short in duration, which is why we're using the tool set that we are, because we can publish games in days or weeks or months instead of years. So that's kind of why we're supporting it, is because if the game jam fits your culture, okay, like at some point in your career, you might be a fit for us, we might be a fit for you, because it's a similar vibe. And the tool set that we're using specifically is UEFN. We're trying to get more attention on that tool set. So again, use whatever tool you want, but if you happen to use UEFN, we'll have a rep from our team at each of the 3 sites that are represented here, and we will be awarding at least one team from each site who uses UEFN to come and check out our facility. We'll treat you to lunch, and you'll just kind of get some free industry networking at a minimum to learn about working in the game industry, working here in Georgia, maybe one day working with us. So that's basically it, and we'll be doing more of these in the coming months. So thanks for the opportunity to talk about that.
Yeah. Any last questions? Last chance. All right, thank you to our panel. Stick around for networking. We're also going to have a brief demonstration of the Creative Indian. So Wes, you want to come up here and set up your computer?
I'm not going to do a demo. I'll just
okay. Okay. Do you want to do something for the stream? Come up here and tell the stream what the offer is. We'll get him on one way or another. He doesn't get away that easily. All right, again, thank you to our panel. Great presentation. Grab the mic wherever it is. Introduce yourself. Tell them everything.
Really excited. Sure. At creativedev.net, we have a no-code game development platform to make the games babies. We're offering everybody who signs up at creativedev.net the Game Jam, free use through the Game Jam.
All right.
And again, that's creativedev.net.
Thank you, Wes.
I like your